So I think the clear consensus right now for the Las Vegas Raiders is that with the 6th pick in the NFL draft, they should take Ashton Jeanty. It's obvious that they will be taking an offensive playmaker, and this decision really is not an easy one because you can look at things two different ways. One way is that you go out and get a receiver for Geno Smith, which is a very important thing to do and is not something to overlook, and mcmillan is more than likely going to be right there. Or they can of course select Ashton Jeanty, the phenom running back from Boise State that looks like he could very well be a prime Derrick Henry type of player from the get-go. I guess the Raiders have a good problem on their hands because for some teams in this draft, it feels like they are picking what guy they dislike the least, especially at the quarterback position. But for the Raiders, both Tet and Jeanty have so much upside and potential, but since the start of this all, I have been leaning Jeanty, and I am sticking with that in my final mock draft for the Raiders. Yes, this will be my final official mock draft type of video before the draft happens, which I just can't believe is only a week out from now. The reason why I am going the Jeanty route is because I think he has generational talent written all over him. It's all the eye test. When you watch a Boise State game, he is the guy you can't take your eyes off of. And I think he can bolster what the Raiders can do offensively right away. He will open up a lot of new doors, and Pete Carroll is used to coaching monster running backs. And also, the running back position is not dead. It is still a critical position for teams that go on deep runs. We saw Saquon Barkley's importance on the Eagles. Running backs deserve to be paid, and they deserve to be viewed as one of the most important pieces to a team, even with them being a little more vulnerable to injuries. And one thing that makes Jeanty such a hot commodity is his build and frame. Obviously, I can't predict how an NFL career is going to go, but he does not come across as a guy that's going to get injured a lot, and I don't think he is going to be on the wrong end of a lot of collisions. Obviously, it's football, so you're going to get banged up, but he really just doesn't seem like a guy that will deal with all those small injuries. Now, obviously, if like the Nick Chubb situation happens or something, that is just the unfortunate part of the game, but all I am saying is that Jeanty looks like he could be a cornerstone piece to build around for any team. And here's what Jeanty had to say about potentially going to Vegas and how his meetings with them have gone so far on the Rich Eisen show.
Every mock draft I see has you as a Las Vegas Raider. Can you characterize your conversations with the Raiders for me, Ashton?
It's no surprise to me that I'm mocked to go there, being that the recent hires and Pete Carroll, we know his coaching style. We know he likes to run the ball, likes a great running back, and also other people that they've brought on their staff like Chip Kelly and Deland McCullough and a great running back coach. But yeah, it's been great conversations. Obviously meeting with the GM as well in Spy Tech, and they want to bring in great people, right? Obviously, I'm a great player, but they want you to be a fit as a person as well. And I think it's, well known by them that I'd be a great, fit as a person and player. So it's been great conversations with them and getting to know them as well. And so look forward to seeing what's going to happen on the 24th.
I think Jeanty is really excited about the opportunity that being drafted to Vegas could bring. I'm sure he knows Chip Kelly a little bit since he was on the college scene last year. Obviously, every player looking to get drafted would say that they had great conversations with the GM and coaching staff, but Jeanty really is a guy that is as good of a human being as he is a player. He's a player that should be able to fit in with any locker room and any culture in the NFL immediately. Let's take a deeper look at what Ashton Jeanty did in college and why it should translate to the NFL. I think a lot of people like to knock him for playing at Boise State and the fact that he was not always going against the best of the best talent, but literally that is the same for every single collegiate player. Even Ohio State has like 6 games a year against Akron and Bowling Green. And Jeanty actually put up some of the best numbers of his season in 2024 against Oregon, Washington State, and UNLV. Yeah, he kind of got shut down by Penn State, but their defensive line completely outmatched anything Boise State had with their O-line, and it just became so predictable that Boise was going to hand off the ball, that Jeanty had nowhere to go. He was just blown up immediately before he even got to the line of scrimmage, so I will give him a pass for that game. That kind of thing won't happen in the NFL. He had over 2,600 yards last season with 29 touchdowns, and he almost broke the rushing record, but ended just a bit short. He had 6 games with over 200 yards, and he had 7 games with multiple touchdowns, and he had a whopping 1,970 yards after contact for the season, which is just nuts. I know it came against Georgia Southern, but still, it was a D1 school against a D1 school. Jeanty in week 1 literally put up 267 yards and 6 touchdowns in one game. That is just unheard of, and he rushed for an average of 13.4 yards a carry, so it's not like he was just being force-fed. He did all of that with one of his lowest carry totals of the season. I'm sure he made some of the opposing defenders question if football is really the route they want to go with their life. Jeanty can be a pass catcher, but I don't really think the Raiders need him for that. They more need him to become a good blocker in the backfield for Geno, because Brock Bowers can handle most of those short catches out in the flats, and anytime you throw to Jeanty, that is one throw that could have gone towards Bowers, and it's going to be important to get the ball in his hands. So I think for what the Raiders will need to get out of Jeanty, he is the perfect fit. Anyways, now moving on, let's look at the other side of things in mcmillan a bit, because we should not completely rule him out just yet. Like I said, with the Raiders potentially looking long-term with Geno Smith, he does need to have some weapons to throw the ball to. He is a big framed pass catcher at 6'4", 220 pounds, with a well-rounded skill set and a 4.48 40-yard dash speed. Remember, the 40 is the most important for wide receivers and defensive backs, as the mechanism of carrying the football typically slows players down. The Raiders have arguably the best playmaking tight end in the league with Brock Bowers, who practically turned the rookie record books into his own personal journal in 2024, but that's just one player. Jacoby Myers, who took the role as wide receiver 1 last season after the Devontae Adams trade, is definitely more suitable as a number 2 option, and if the Raiders were to select McMillan with the number 6 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, and they would have to because he won't last long after that, they would be getting a big-time weapon to pair with Bowers, bolstering the offense and Geno Smith's arsenal in a critical way for Pete Carroll. This would be a solid long-term move too. The future at the quarterback position is still lurking. Whether it's a draft pick in 2025 or 2026, McMillan would only add to a healthy environment for that quarterback of the future, and it could be Geno Smith. I'm not completely ruling that out either. I've heard it go both ways so far, but McMillan's draft evaluation from NFL.com draft analyst Lance Zierlein garners a comparison to Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. Now moving on to the later rounds, which are very important. Most championship teams always have some big impact players on cheap deals that came from later on in the draft. And in the second round at pick 37, I really like Emeka Egbuka from the Ohio State University. I think this is where you can get that polished receiver that Geno Smith needs. I've seen some mock drafts having him as high as the top 12, and I've seen others having him go to number 4, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. I think it would be great to refine the offensive line a little bit, especially if you bring in Ashton Jeanty, and I think a lot of the other positions like corner and linebacker can wait. And then for the later rounds, as I always say, it is just impossible to predict, but I think it's obvious what the Raiders need. Let me know in the comments below if there's a specific player that you would like to see the Raiders draft in any of the rounds. I'm definitely curious to hear your guys' opinions, because I'm just one man. I have my opinions. I'm definitely not an expert. I'm not saying that at all. I think there's no wrong answer right now, but I just cannot wait for the draft. I cannot wait for football stuff to finally start going, because it's been a long offseason. I know it's only been like a month or so, but a month without football is just a long time. That's really all I have to say for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, because your support truly does mean the world. And also, let me know who you'd like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.